A very interesting Democracy Day here for 2025 as we have this very special broadcast from News Central. My name is Mazino Appeal, and together with Blessings Masugu, we have been bringing details of what's been happening. As we've just seen from inside of the National Assembly, we have seen an address by the President, our President Tinubu, Tinubu, who has just addressed a joint session of the National Assembly and has given details about his administration, where it's going, and, well, his preference for opposition, which I found very interesting, and I'm sure that you found that very interesting.
I know you wrote down the exact words.
I wrote down the exact words. The President said, and I quote, he said, "It is indeed a pleasure to witness your party in disarray." I picked this one out because before that he had told the efforts of his administration, the efforts of the APC, and how welcome the APC is to any other member from the opposition who would want to join, and that it does not behoove him as a president to ask other opposition to put their house in order. In fact, he will revel in it. That was interesting.
That was very interesting. It was so ready to be, like I said, to be brutally
Wike couldn't have done any better. I bet you that was that should have been a Wike script.
I know.
In any case, we are going to be going back to the National Assembly now, where we have visuals of the Speaker who is currently addressing the National Assembly right now. So let's get the details of what's happening, and we'll be back to give you conversation on everything from today's broadcast.
Accounts Committee. Thank you, Honorable Salami. We have also deepened transparency through our biannual youth and women's town halls, an annual live televised citizens interactive session, and the annual House Open Week. We're excited to announce that the next Open Week is scheduled for July, and Mr. President will be honored if you could join us and officially declare the event open. Our parliamentary diplomacy has flourished with the establishment of 82 friendship groups, fostering legislative ties with global partners. Collaboration with civil society organizations, including UNDP, PLAC, UN Women, CAS, and YAGA Africa, have enhanced our expertise and promoted inclusion. Notably, the 10th House has partnered with the UNDP, resulting in a memorandum of understanding this 50 billion project of the House, thereby strengthening the capacity of members of the House of Representatives. Mr. President.
Still on the happenings live at the National Assembly. We'll definitely get back to that. But in the meantime, we're coming to Omolola Ololade, who's News Central's correspondent, currently at Ojota. We're going to reconfirm her location, but she has been covering the protests, the Take It Back movement, and we spoke with her earlier, and we want to know what the updates are on the movement. We can see behind her that it doesn't seem as though there is a crowd as much as there was in the morning. Omolola Ololade, thank you for joining us. What's the update on the movement as of this moment? Are people still there? Are they leaving? Are they reconvening? What's the situation there?
Okay, so we're presently at, Ojota, where the protesters had to move from Ikeja on the bridge down to, Ojota here. But as you can see behind me, you see that the protest has just ended. The different factions of protesters, they've all left, they've all left the government Ojota where they converged earlier. But, a few minutes ago, while the protest was still on, there was almost a clash between the members of the government protesters and, of course, the pro-government protesters who are saying that why should they follow them down to Ojota? And one of the members of the protesters from the government are saying that they are here to make sure that there's no clash between them. And the other protesters from MKO are saying that why should you follow us down here? You met us at the under bridge, and now you're following us here. Is it to cause a clash? Is it to cause chaos? And then they're saying that, but then other people are saying that even the protests should have been more organized, because as it is, it has caused huge traffic on the road. A lot of people are saying that they have people who needed, emergency to take that kids to the hospital in emergency case and all of that. And they're saying that the protest today has caused more damage than good.
All right, Omolola, please, if you'd let us know exactly whether they would be reconvening the protest at all, or is that the end to it?
Please, can you come again, Mazino?
I just asked if the protest would be reconvening, or has it ended?
Okay, so I think for now the protest has ended because we had the organizer of the End Bad Governance or Take It Back movement. They said that the protest has ended for today, and that is because they didn't hear that they wanted to move the protest to Ganesa only back in Georgia, but they didn't hear that there was some miscreants who had gathered there, and they didn't want the protest to be exact, so they had to end it here at the Georgia Park.
All right, Ololade, thank you so much for the update on the movement so far. And I would have liked to ask for context on what they have been demanding for all morning, but we'll get back to that in no time, because right now we need to go over to Abia State, where our correspondent Chinwe Ugile is currently there to feel the pulse of the people on this day that should be celebrated or commemorated, depending on the word. Chinwe Ugile, it's great to have you join us. Thank you for covering the Democracy Day so far in Abia State. Can you just tell us how the people are reacting to this? Can you tell us, feel the pulse of the people for us? What are they saying about democracy? How do they feel about this day?
Okay, so down here in the southeast, especially here in Abia State, it's just like a normal holiday. The Easterners do not really pay too much heed to this day. So it's just like a normal day, but then they realize the fact that it is a democracy day. And some of them I interviewed earlier this morning told me that they would have preferred a situation whereby the political class would have taken, done an introspection of how far we've come, instead of just celebrating that. So most of them believe that Nigeria has nothing to celebrate so far, that we've not done well in the areas of security, I beg your pardon, in the areas of health and leadership itself. So they prefer that the people in authority should have done a quiet time on this day to see how they can turn around the lives and the fortunes of the citizens that they lead, so that we don't plunge ourselves into more problems. I have here with me a gentleman who was a legislator here in Abia State some years back, and today he is a private citizen, but then he's still a politician. So I'd like to know, as he's Open Rocks, Ima. So I'd like to know, as someone who's been in the legislature, and we understand that legislature is the strength of every democracy, would you say that Nigeria has had a fairly, good legislature since our democracy started?
Thank you very much. Talking about legislature, in a nutshell, I would say that we seem to be moving backwards. We seem to be moving backwards. The legislature in Nigeria has decided to make itself an appendage of the executive. I was a pioneer member of the Abia Assembly. I was a minority chief whip. And the ruling party was NRC, who were SDP. I know that we never controlled to the governor. Today, you see, both the senior president is like the spokesman of the president. And it's getting worse. It wasn't like this in our days. And I believe that it should be. But I'm happy that today is Democracy Day. It's a day I would have wanted, it to be celebrated in a different fashion. Have workshops, have seminars. How do we deepen democracy? I believe in continuity. Every governor that comes or president that comes has something that he has done that others can copy. Buhari, to me, was a terrible president, but at least he was the one who made this Democracy Day. So how do we encourage celebration of today? And what is today? It is a day that has been brought out to celebrate electoral integrity. That's what the essence of June 12th. So how are we celebrating electoral integrity? What is going on now? There is no tolerance for the opposition. That is wrong. You are either increasing the opposition to come to you, or you are forcing them, blackmailing them to come to you. It is terrible. That is not going to deepen and sustain electoral integrity. So it is a sad day for me when I look at what is happening today in our polity.
Okay, thank you very much, sir, for your time. I do appreciate. Okay, so just like what he said, a lot of people also said that the citizens have roles to play. You know, that they need to also learn how to make their voices heard, especially on the days of elections. They do not need to sell their votes. They need to support the people in government so that we'll be able to move the country where it should be. Back to you.
Oh, Chinwe, thank you very much. And we also enjoyed the communication with that guest we had there. But I wanted to ask regarding this. Now, here in the West, in Lagos and other parts of the West, Democracy Day is celebrated as sort of like an opportunity lost and also attention to the late Chief MKO Abiola. Now, regarding the East, then it's deference to, or what seems to be a sense of deference to Democracy Day. What contributions have they made, if at all any, to Democracy Day in itself? Have there been any walks or even seminars like the gentleman that you spoke with told, even if these are curated individually by maybe the state government or individuals or NGOs, are there any tangible expressions for Democracy Day in that part of the country?
Well, none that I know of, but then I tell you that today, a certain community is hosting the governor in Aba. Okay, they're organizing some kind of march for him, but I'm not sure is related to the Democracy Day. And then the former governor of the state is also hosting his former aides across party lines in his own country home today. But I do not know if there has been any seminar or workshop or program that was organized or is being organized to, you know, highlight today being Democracy Day in Abia State or any other part of the Southeast.
Chinwe, thank you very much for being there and giving us all the details about the temperature of situation regarding the Southeast and Democracy Day. Thank you indeed.
All right, right now we'll be going back to the National Assembly where we have our correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, who will be also uncovering what has been happening there so far. Sagir Ibrahim, if you can hear us, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. What's the update at the National Assembly so far?
Good afternoon, Mazino. Yes, at the moment, the joint session is still on, actually, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives is still delivering his brief. However, we've taken the speeches of both the President of the Senate as well as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who, of course, gave an elaborate speech about the June 12th celebration, the June 12th struggle. He also used the opportunity, of course, to confer national honor on well-deserving individuals. And I must say it's really a good day, especially for journalists, because some of our own were actually conferred, this national honors. Talk about the likes of Dr. Olorun Yomi, talk about Uwe Lakemba, even talk about Ken Saro-Wiwa, the late activist and advocate who unfortunately lost his life, of course, during those times. So these are some of the nuances here from the National Assembly.
Sagir, speaking about nuance and the honors that were conferred on the individuals, June 12th is noted to be a celebration of martyrs, especially MKO Abiola. And with regards to these honors that have been conferred or in the past that were conferred to people, we note that they were conferred to individuals that were not necessarily politicians. But this year we see that we have honors conferred to politicians. I'm wondering if this in any way, in your opinion, dilutes the national honors or the celebration of June 12th in itself?
Well, I would not say it dilutes, but then again, the June 12th, because it is Democracy Day, but also a day set aside to also remember June 12th, which many Nigerians, a lot of people consider to be one of the freest and fairest elections, here in Nigeria. So, conferment of the national honors, from my point of view, would basically be for those who have continued in the struggle, doggedness to continue to see that Nigeria's democracy continues to stand. But then again, of course, the president also used it as an opportunity to also discuss what his administration has been up to over the course of the last 2 years. The National Assembly also took the same opportunity because earlier when the Senate President was speaking, he also sort of gave a scorecard of what the Senate has been up to, talk about how many bills has been brought. If you let me, I'm going to give you a brief overview of that. Now, the Senate President had mentioned that over 107 bills were currently at committee stages at different levels on the floor of the Senate. He mentioned that 206 bills are waiting first reading. Another 409 bills have also made second reading. 96 bills have passed in the Senate in the last 2 years, 56 of which have been assented to by the president of the country. Some of these bills, of course, include the NEL Fund, many universities establishment bills, among many others. He also mentioned that around 26 executive bills have been sent from the executive arm of government to the legislative arm of government, all of which have been passed. Over the time period of 2 years, the Senate President also mentioned that over 100 petitions have been received from CSOs and various citizens across the country, out of which 28 has been adopted. So I believe all of this is all in an effort to make Nigerians understand that while they think or feel disenchanted that the National Assembly might be rubber stamp, as they have said, which was also addressed by the Senate President, he's trying to establish the fact that this National Assembly, the 10th National Assembly, has continued to work in the interest of Nigerians. Now, back to the President's address. Of course, he did not shy away from making clarification and bold statements to not only the sayers, but also those who are claimed that the APC, his party, is one way or the other gradually pushing Nigerians to a one-party state. While he said that is not the intention and that has never been the intention, of course, he also alluded to the fact that he was not going to help the opposition to put their party in order if that is what they are thinking. In fact, he mentioned it's his joy that they are in that situation. So, of course, these are some of the issues that were raised by not only the president, but also the presiding officer while delivering their speeches.
Sagi, I'd like you to please emphasize more on that moment when he said these things, when he said it is not his prerogative to help the opposition maintain their house. We saw that the house actually went up in an uproar. It was an exciting moment even here, as that kind of like sounded like shots fired, if you ask me. Can you please give us a detailed sample of what it was like there at the National Assembly, since you were there in person?
Well, I would not necessarily call it shots fired, but I would rather call it a bombshell that was dropped, because he started by saying, I will be the last person to advocate a one-party state. A one-party state is not in the oven and should never be. However, it will be getting guilty. We will be guilty of political malpractice if we close our doors to others who intend to join us. Of course, this is the president saying that even though the one-party state is not in the oven at the moment, it's going to be tantamount to electoral malpractice or even political malpractice in itself if the APC does not take advantage of the fact that the various political opposition parties in the country are facing one form of political crisis or the other, and it does not use the opportunity to scoop up the few who are currently, dissatisfied with the situation in their parties and joining the All Progressive Congress at this point. And then he went on to say, I will not say try your best to put your party in order. I will not help you to do so either. It is indeed a pleasure to witness you in such a disarray. Now, after this statement, he went on to give an update on the state of the economy, where he mentioned that the economy has been gaining some ground since they came into office. Of course, he talked about the GDP growth moving from 2.4% in 2024 to around 4.4% in Q4 of the same year. Spoke about inflation gradually easing one way or another. The forex rate has stabilized following the unification of the forex windows. Speaking about other developments still around it, but then again, he also spoke about the freedom of information and, of course, the freedom of saying whatever you like about the president. I'm saying that because he mentioned that no one should bear the brunt of injustice for merely writing a bad report or calling me names. The president talking about himself. Democracy requires a fair degree of tolerance for harsh words and stinking insults, particularly when they are paid because of their losses. The words of the president. Back to you.
Okay, Sagir, I'm actually very curious, you know, away from addressing the other political parties and talking about ruling out some of the achievements which, you know, I have personally come to know him for. One of the other things that concerns me is when he spoke about democracy, and I do not have the exact words, so I'm just going to paraphrase. He said that he was going to keep upholding democracy to make sure that, you know, we work towards a better Nigeria, achieve the goals of Nigeria and things like that. And it sort of now seemed as though it was a he was discrediting the feelings of the people, because all we've been talking about all morning is how people do not see the existence of democracy. So, you know, and further down to what you said about people saying whatever they like, it just felt as like an easy excuse to say that if you feel there's no democracy, that's on you, but I know and believe that there's democracy and I'll keep upholding it. It feels like we're upholding something that does not exist. What do we make of that? In your own personal opinion, what did that mean to you when he said that?
The president feels that the fact that Nigerians are allowed to hold dissenting opinion is indeed what democracy guarantees. Because if it were to be in the military regime, ordinarily, Nigerian civil society advocates, activists, journalists, and the likes of that will not be able to hold public opinion and, in fact, criticize the government of the day. So in the president's opinion, or rather I would say, the president sees this as democracy itself, Nigerians being able to hold dissenting opinion, being able to disagree with each other, not just each other, but also being able to disagree with him, calling him names and calling him voices. So, you know, I'm calling him words or imprintable words as the case may be. So this basically his understanding of what democracy should be, the ability for people to and you disagree or say to the elections if your candidate becomes next of representative case may be.
All right, then, Sagir, we're having a bit of issue with your connection there, but I'm hoping that you can still hear us, because I have a very interesting note here regarding the speech that the president gave with the joint session there at the National Assembly. Now, at the earlier part of his speech, he had noted that his administration is committed to giving opportunities to the young people. He also talked about the Net Fund, which was one of the initiatives of his administration, and that they're ensuring that youth are job ready and future ready. He also talked about laying fiber optics across the ocean. Everything here points towards a youth-centric or youth-focused type initiatives. However, it would seem that there seems to be a lack of representation of the youth when it comes to whether the National Assembly or governance in Nigeria. And I'm wondering what this felt like for you as you were there personally. Did you see any gestures or reactions from people who are invested in this aspect of governance, where it has to do majorly with the youth?
Well, Mazino, what I can say is this administration clearly and honestly feels that it has done the best that it can to empower young Nigerians, the youth population, and the youth constituency. Now, whether they believe this or not is, of course, their opinion. However, the millions of Nigerians on the street, on social media, of course, will have their opinion as well. If the government of the day feels that they've done enough in terms of empowering the Nigerian youth, well, so be it, and let that be the case. However, the Nigerian youth who are currently watching and seeing this right now, of course, will be going on social media and will be giving their opinions and their 2 cents as to whether these so-called sacrifices, this impact, and of course, this investment that the government has made has trickled down into their lives in one way or the other. What I can say at this point is, let's wait and see what the collectivity of the Nigerian youth has to say about this.
Something, Sagir, that you are a youth and you're representing the rest of us there. So I think that counts for something.
So I'm just very curious, right? And I know that we have talked about the fact that this is quite different from, the military regime where people are free to express themselves. But is that what we really want, freedom to express? I mean, there's still so many things that we're not talking about. There's still inclusion in governance. There's still the voices of the people actually counting. It's not just people saying what they feel, but it actually, causing change. So I mean, I'm still going to ask you what you think personally. It's not just about the president saying, or the fact that you're free to say what you want to say counts for democracy. There's so much more that, you know, our fathers in the past fought for in terms of democracy that we're not seeing yet.
Well, there's really a lot to say, especially when you start from the position that it didn't used to be like this. For the likes of people like myself and many others who are within my age bracket, we only heard stories about how, you know, our fathers and our forefathers enjoyed quality education, both home and abroad, free education for that matter, with an inclusion of food and transport. Plus, it's not waiting for you at the end, you know, of your graduation or your service year, as the case may be. For the many of us who are in the other side of the divide, we are hoping to see a day that will come when we begin to enjoy all of these dividends. But for now, it's going to be a waiting game. But while we are waiting, of course, we are not going to be resting on our oars. We are going to keep our voices high up in the sky for those who also listen until the right thing is done.
All right, I hear you. Thank you so much for, you know, talking to us about that.
Representing.
Yeah, exactly. And not just from the professional perspective, but also from your own perspective. And definitely we'll see what happens next at the National Assembly. Thank you for being there and covering that. Now, in the meantime, we also did introduce a report earlier about the life and legacy of the late Chief MKO Abiola by our correspondent, Ni Omoni. We're going to go back to that and see that again, and we'll come back to talk about it.
On June 12, 1993, Nigerians across the country went to the polls to elect a new president, with MKO Abiola, a business mogul and the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party SDP, emerging as the clear winner. His campaign garnered the support of an estimated 14 million Nigerians who were desperate to end the cycle of military dictatorships that had plagued the nation.
We don't want Babangida again, and we want MKO.
Who's MKO?
Abiola.
Despite the overwhelming mandate from the people, the results of the election were never released. In a shocking move, the then military head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida, annulled the election on security grounds, claiming it was necessary to save the nation. These decisions sparked nationwide protests spearheaded by civil society groups who alleged electoral fraud.
The people's voice that will be heard and will be heard and will be heard again.
The protests left hundreds of protesters dead, and MKO Abiola was subsequently arrested and imprisoned on charges of treason after declaring himself the lawful president of Nigeria.
Incited the public to insurrection and attempting to topple the government.
Tragically, MKO Abiola died in prison on July 7, 1998, under suspicious circumstances on the very day he was reportedly due for release.
This time, our preliminary opinion is that the death was due to natural causes.
I'm surprised and I'm shocked, and it's still unbelievable. I can't believe it.
His death was a devastating blow to the pro-democracy movement and a stark reminder of the sacrifices made in the pursuit of democratic ideals.
June 12th, that day of liberty, that day of freedom, that day of nationhood is the day that we must remember in Nigeria.
In recognition of MKO Abiola's role and the significance of the June 12, 1993 election, former President Muhammadu Buhari declared June 12 as Nigeria's New Democracy Day in 2018. Additionally, Abiola was posthumously awarded the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, GCFR, Nigeria's highest national honor. While the annulment of the June 12 election remains a controversial and painful chapter in Nigeria's history, with recent memoirs reigniting criticism of the role played by key figures like Babangida, the day serves as a reminder of the sacrifices made for democracy and the ongoing struggle for accountability and transparent governance.
It is virtually impossible today, the way Nigeria is configured. You can see that even President Bola Tinubu, who fought Babangida, who fought Abacha, who were together in exile for 3 years in London. He couldn't spit fire the way we used to spit fire in those days. And anybody who knows our country very well, we know that calling for the prosecution of either Gawan or Babangida or any of the principal actors is just an exercise in futility. The practical thing now is that we must find a way to make sure that such an event does not repeat itself and that we truly forgive ourselves.
Every year, activists and pro-democracy advocates use June 12 as a platform to press for greater accountability. The June 12, 1993 presidential election is still viewed by many Nigerians as the freest and fairest in the nation's history, a testament to the enduring power of the people's will. In Lagos 4 News Central, Igbalani Omoni.
Once again, a great report on the life and legacy of Chief MKO Abiola. It's been a journey so far, and seeing as we are commemorating Democracy Day again today, the questions remain: are we truly a democratic nation? Is this what the fathers in time past have clamored for? And a lot of speculations, from the people, from the government about what democracy truly is and what it should be. It's a journey, and we're definitely gradually getting towards there, I hope.
Yeah, well, 26-year journey. We should be there already, many will argue. Well, I hope that we actually will get there as soon as we can. We also saw our correspondent who brought us that report. He was also at the center, Declaration Center in Ekpetedo, where he took us on a soft tour of the center, and it's rather derelict, I would say. And questions arose then regarding the state of the place and why it has been in such, what's the word I could use here?
Dilapidated state.
Yeah, nobody's actually paying attention to it. I didn't get my question answered regarding the fear that people always seem to see when we ask people to talk about June 12 in public settings or even on television, which is rather sad, because I would think that today, as a day like this, would be one for a full expression of what people think regarding democracy. Nee did try to speak with a few people, but they had refused to come on air to tell what they felt about June 12. We did have also our correspondent from the southeast, and Chinwe Ugele. She told, well, kind of like almost mirroring what Nee had told regarding people wanting to express themselves regarding the day. But we did have one person whom she spoke to. Now, for me, the biggest takeaway today is the efforts that the current administration is actually putting in. And you could see from the speech there at the National Assembly with the president, where he told about the efforts, how he is making this a very youth-centric kind of administration. And I'm hoping that the communication that he therein put would reach the target, reach the people, reach the youth. Because I see one thing here, and it's clear that there seems to be a communication deficit when it comes to the expressions of the government and what we hear as civilians.
Yeah, and I do think that this is not communication enough, if you ask me. You cannot just come out once in a while on Democracy Day, October 1st, or just those memorable days to talk about things that you feel like your administration is. Exactly. So you should carry every single person along, and this should trickle down to even the market women, because we don't want to hear about GDP ratio. We want to hear how this will translate to food on our plate. And regarding your question now, I can answer that, but what I see mostly is more of nonchalance and a feeling of lethargy from the people, and that's because over time it's been a recurring situation, and it feels like there is no solution. Our guest earlier on Jasiri did liken the situation with Nigerians to the situation with the children of Israel, coming out and all that they experienced with Pharaoh. They seemed to forget when it felt like they didn't see the journey ahead. So it now became a very dicey situation where some of them were even wishing to go back. I mean, earlier we had a Vox Pop and someone was saying that, in fact, at this point, they want us to go back to military for it. I mean, is that bad? Exactly.
Careful what you wish for.
Exactly. So I just feel like it's coming from a place of distrust, a place of apathy, a lack of hope, so to speak. So, yeah.
Well, we do hope that we would see a better future for Nigerians. And with everything that we have been told or that we have heard from that speech, well, let's see that they come to fruition and that we participate. Regarding the one-party state, well, it sounds like we hear one thing and we see a different one, but then the president has clarified, you are welcome, one and all, and it's not my business to put your houses in good order.
Make that what you will.
Exactly, make that what you will. It's been a great broadcast here for me, at least this session here with you. Always is, with blessings. It doesn't end here because we're going to continue the broadcast with another session and another crew who will be taking over to give us details. Across the country, we have our correspondents who will be bringing us the temperature from these parts of Nigeria regarding the celebrations or commemoration that's going on for June 12, 2025, Democracy Day.
Stay tuned, because News Central will be unpacking the happenings across the states. Thanks to our correspondents, they're still on ground, so do not go anywhere. We've got more for you. My name is Blessings Bosugu.
My name is Mazino Appeal.